The Democrats just revealed their plot to sabotage Winsome Earle-Sears in the closing days of her gubernatorial campaign. To me, this is the clearest evidence yet that the race is a lot closer than it is publicly understood, and that, yes, the Democrats are indeed panicking over this. But before we dive into all of those details, just take a look at this minute-long analysis from MSNBC, which is probably the biggest self-own I've ever seen on that network, as well as one of the dumbest minutes they've ever aired on that network, and, well, that is saying a lot.
Really is incredible when you have Abigail Spanberger, Mikey Sherrill, her background, all the different jobs that she has held in the military, and also like Alyssa Slotkin. I mean, my God, these women are incredible, and to them I would say fight, because we need them. We need them leading.
And Mikey is like, she's doing a ton of interview. You know, when I talked to them, when I was in the car, you know, it was this car, she had gone from interview to interview to talk to, but you know, you still see the anxiety.
Yeah, Sherrill did have a few missteps in her campaign, but she still has, as you say, about a 5 or 6 point lead per polling. Spanberger's lead in Virginia a little bigger than that, but you know, both still competitive races here heading into the last couple of weeks. But to Mika, to Molly's point, I mean, this is something that a lot of Democrats are grappling with right now. Is they've nominated women 2 of the last 3 elections for the presidency, lost both. There are some who say, well, we can't do that again. The stakes are too high. But of course, that does fall into the same misogynistic trap.
Other countries have no problem electing women.
Other countries have no problem electing women. Do you hear that? According to them, it is your fault. You guys are sexist, and that's the whole reason why Abigail Spanberger is struggling in this race. But you know, I know that the debate was a little while ago now, but in case they've forgotten, Abigail Spanberger, a woman, is running against Winsome Earle-Sears, who, guess what, is also a woman. You know what that means? No matter who wins the race in Virginia, a woman is going to win. A woman is going to be elected. We've had many women governors and elected representatives. So for this talk that, oh, America has such a hard time electing women, it's just BS. And to me, it really indicates, it really is another telltale sign that the Democrats are just panicking right now. I mean, does Winsome Earle-Sears not count as a woman to the folks over at MSNBC? Or is she not woman enough because she's running as a Republican candidate? You know, when you think about the Democrat poster child for all of their supposed priorities, they should be rooting for Winsome Earle-Sears. She's a minority, she's black, she's an immigrant. She has all these different, you know, surface level qualifications that the Democrats claim that they love, and yet they've been bashing her this entire time. They've been completely unfair during the campaign, and they've been covering up overtime for Abigail Spanberger. I mean, the cover-up that we've seen from not just the national media, of course, but especially the local media is worse than we've seen with, you know, Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton, or heck, even Joe Biden. So before we get into what is oh so very clearly Democrat sabotage, I would like to take a look at the polling data. According to Real Clear Politics, their compilation of all the polls, Spanberger is ahead by an average of 7.1 percentage points. That looks like a massive lead, but if you look at the most recent, most accurate poll in the list, which is Trafalgar Insider Advantage, they have this at a 3-point race. Spanberger only 3 points ahead of Winsome Earle-Sears. Now, what's interesting here is this margin of error, which for Trafalgar Insider is 2.9 percentage points. There's a lot of misconceptions and misperceptions of what that margin of error is, but it's actually, I mean, there are technically 2 margins of errors, especially when you dive deeper into the crosstabs of the polls. But as far as this larger one, this main one that they always talk about, it's actually talking about plus or minus from the final number of either candidate. So if the margin of error is 2.9, let's just round up to 3 to make the math easy. What that really means is that Spanberger can overperform by 3 percentage points. So that would mean instead of 48, she could get as high as 51%, but she could also underperform by 3 percentage points. So her range here is essentially 45 to 51. Now, with Winsome Earle-Sears, that margin of error is the same, 2.9 percentage points. Again, we're going to round up to 3. That means Winsome Earle-Sears can do as well as 48 percentage points and as bad as 42. So if you basically what I'm talking about here is if you take a look at that plus or minus, there is a 3-point overlap. This is really a tight race, and it all comes down to turnout. It comes down to the mobilization. And so this race is not lost. And, that's not just my wishful thinking. This is literally in the numbers right here. And to prove that it's not just me who's, drinking up the copium and getting really excited about this, you can just take a look at the Democrat actions. And this reveals their panic. Well, they have now just announced a last-minute redistricting push in the state of Virginia. Now, you may say, Daniel, well, other states are redistricting. Texas is doing that. Obviously, California and other states have jumped in to try to counter what Texas is doing. Here is what's different, though, in Virginia. So not only did they just announce this, but according to the Code of Virginia, this would actually take Winsome Earle-Sears off the road. When the General Assembly is in session, she won't be able to fundraise, she won't be able to campaign, she won't be able to do anything. So the code in Virginia, as far as passing this redistricting, is really tricky here. So they actually have to pass this in 2 separate general assemblies. So they have to do it this year, and they have to do it again next year after the election. But they could have done this any time during the year. They could have done this earlier in the year, months ago. They could have, guess what, waited. I checked their calendar. They could have waited until after the election. They're not headed for holiday break, for a few weeks still after the election. So it's not as if they don't have time to get this done. This is very clearly a ploy to get Winsome Earle-Sears off the road as these polls are tightening up, and you take a look at the margin of error beginning to overlap. Well, it's not just my analysis, my feeling of all of this. Winsome Earle-Sears, her own campaign, they released this statement. This is what panic looks like. With just 12 days until Election Day, Abigail Spanberger and her Democrat allies have given up on talking to voters about real ideas and solutions. Instead, she's leading the charge on cheap political stunts to slow down Winsome Earle-Sears' momentum. It's pathetic. Voters see through it. They know Winsome Earle-Sears is a Marine, a mom, and a fighter for Virginia every day, while Abigail Spanberger is a career politician using Washington-style dirty tricks to protect her power and her friends. Texas announced this. If this is in retaliation to Texas, why, when California said that they were going to retaliate, all these other blue states joined in. Where was Virginia then? The timing of this. Look, it could be coincidence, theoretically, but in the world of politics, I've come to learn with my, as I get older and gain more experience in the world of politics, if it smells fishy, it's probably rotten somewhere. There is no coincidence in politics, unfortunately. There's been a lot of bad news for Spanberger. Winsome Earle-Sears did great at the debate. One of the pieces of bad news is actually this secret undercover tape that shows us that Spanberger has actually received money from AIPAC. Now, I personally, and I know this is going to make some people upset, I don't have an issue with AIPAC per se, as long as, they follow all of the rules and all of the regulations that any other political action committee is supposed to do. But the Democrats right now, they are all obviously on Team Palestine, Team Gaza. They are all in on anti-Israel. So this is not going to be a good part for the portion of the Democrat base that they usually rely on to be energetic and to be grassroots and to knock on doors for them.
Yes, she's taken AIPAC money for this. She has. I know that was also a huge concern for some of our voters too. Should I not have told you that? Are you wearing a wire? She doesn't need any more money. It would be a crime, honestly. You guys gave her more money. No more money. No more money. She has enough. I promise you. She has enough. She does not need any more money. I'm not optimistic. I'm not. I mean, I know she's gonna win because I just have to believe she's gonna win. But she wins and then what? And then what? She wins, and then what? It's supposed to be just magically better after she wins.
It's not just that, though. The J. Jones texting scandal has been dragging her down, and her inability to answer clearly when it comes to men playing in women's sports has really cost her a lot of voters. But before we get into all of that, I would like to acknowledge Jenny Rentgen and Bart Denny as the members of today's Governor's Club. These are people who give tips and super thanks to the channel. I am so glad that you're here, and I'm thankful that you enjoy. Well, another sign that they're panicking is who they're calling out to the campaign trail. Just think about how often or how rarely they call out Barack Obama. Believe it or not, Barack Obama is still popular among the Democrat Party base, but you'll notice, they don't really call him out all that often. And even when Kamala Harris was running, he stayed far away. You could tell Obama did not want Kamala Harris. He was in favor for a mini open primary, and, he just was hands off until he couldn't afford to be. Well, now they're calling him in. According to the Associated Press, Obama will campaign with Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey in high-stakes governor's races. So these races are a lot closer, and it's very clear that the National Democrat Party apparatus, they're seeing these numbers, they're seeing these trend lines, and, they don't want to take anything for granted, and they're definitely putting they're going all in here. If you're calling out Barack Obama as a Democrat, this is pretty much, to me, your last resort. You really are feeling the heat. Well, the other heat that Abigail is getting right now is her inability to respond to the J. Jones texting scandal. And what is super hypocritical and ironic about this is, don't forget about the debate, right? She didn't want to talk about it at all. Sure, she had her pre-scripted, clearly rehearsed lines about, oh, I denounced this and blah, 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 blah. But once Winsome Earle-Sears was actually trying to engage with her, actually trying to get her to call on J. Jones to drop out, trying to really get her to denounce his violent rhetoric, she was just silent. She didn't actually talk about anything. So keep in mind Abigail's total silence, her stonewalling during the debate. If you've been subscribed to my channel, you probably saw that. Keep that in mind as you watch this.
If I'm being very honest, we are 3 weeks away from an election in Virginia. I have worked tirelessly for 2 years running for this office. I announced in November 2023. The fact that I say this with all due respect because, I think it's a fair thing for you to ask about, the fact that I have to spend even a moment's time talking about somebody else's text messages from years ago rather than what I want to do as governor is something that I am deeply unhappy about. The fact that I can't spend every minute of the day talking about the plans that I have built out, not to be too hokey about it, but like my multiple pages of plans, my affordability plan, my education plan, my growing our economy plan, because of the, poor choices of another candidate, it is something that really clouds my view of all of it. And so, what we, the collective, we would have done, had this information come to light much earlier, I will say this, I would be much, much happier as a candidate if I could just talk about all of the things that I am for.
I don't know about you, but to me, it sounded like she implied that if this had happened earlier, then things would be different. Like maybe J. Jones would be out of the race. And if that's the case, if he would have been out, had this happened earlier, why is it different now? Why does the timing matter now? It's only because you, as the Democrat Party, want to win. It's about power no matter what. Now, she's claiming, oh, I wish I didn't have to spend a single minute talking about this. You didn't talk about it during the debate. Winsome Earle-Sears was actually trying to debate you. She was trying to get you on the record. She was trying to engage with you. She was asking you direct questions, and you refused to answer. You were stonewalling her. You were staring off into the distance. You were smirking. You didn't even make eye contact with her. What do you mean? Oh, it's a shame that I even have to talk about this. Guess what? As the executive of the state, should you win, you will be the leader. And that includes not just a leader of the government, but you're also meant to have moral clarity. You're supposed to set the tone and the tenor. You're supposed to be an example. And you can't even strongly denounce all of this. Oh, it's just so beneath you. You know what's beneath all of us? Violent rhetoric like that. It should not be that difficult to comprehend. But as always, all of this is just my analysis and commentary. That is what's happening in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So what do you think about this ploy to do redistricting in Virginia? Do you think it's just a coincidence? And the timing, it's just unfortunate for Winsome Earle-Sears. But hey, Daniel, you're reading too much into it. That sounds like a conspiracy theory. I think it's just a coincidence. Or do you agree with me that, hey, it smells fishy, and that means there's probably some corruption going on somewhere? Let me know your thoughts of why or why not down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to leave me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.